Is there a sense of euphoria about it, ascending to this position, especially if you consider you are filling very, very big shoes? Sesra Zakama, Sekwet Masire, Refestus Mahaye, Ski, and then by that I mean Serazakama Yen Kama, and then Mokwetsi Eric Masisi. These are massive shoes by any standard.
No. I was the first president of the opposition BDP. Remember, we are used to winning. I'm saying we are used to winning because even at the beginning in 1962, when BDP was established, we are not the first political party to be established in this country.
Without being crass or pointing any fingers, what went wrong? From other people's point of view, what went right?
So I strongly believe that BDP, we started taking Botswana for granted. And we did take Botswana for granted. And even our posture as we are going towards the elections, we are saying, we are going to win. So what? You understand?
This is Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. We enthuse, we energize, we inspire, and we empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes in BW and beyond. Dumela and welcome, dear viewer, dear listener. Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe here, your host of this program. We've been at it now, me and you, for 6 solid years, and it's a privilege, it's an honor. I don't take it for granted that you've taken time out of your busy schedule to come and join us here on Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast, the number one podcast for entrepreneurs, for life-changing business education. And there is an intersection, so whether we admit it or not, between politics and business. And it's in that regard that I've invited Mpho Balopi, who is the new head or the new president of our party that led us for 58 solid years, Botswana Democratic Party. And I'm going to be talking to him about his new role in the party. But more importantly, I'm going to be talking to him as an entrepreneur that he is, who has traversed the entrepreneurship landscape for many years. But before I bring him on, let me ask you to do the honorable thing, which is simply to strike that subscribe button. I find that when it comes to subscribing, it's 66% of you sometimes plus minus just watch and don't subscribe, and we need it to be able to attract people of this caliber, entrepreneurs of this caliber. We need for you to keep the buzz going. So please just strike that subscribe button. Give us also the honor of just liking the content, and strike also the notification bell. A little bit of housekeeping. The book is out, guys. It's been out for the last 18 months. Nuggets of Grit, only $350. It's available from Exclusive Books, and it's also available from here in Mogobe Plaza on the first floor. And let's do business, guys. Support us, help us grow, buy the book, and see what else you can do for us. We have quite a diverse portfolio of activities here in the Mogobe group of companies. So pay us a visit and see what we are about. But let me welcome Mpho Balopi to the studio.
Thank you very much.
It's a special privilege for me, Sir Horo. You took time out of your busy schedule to come and join us.
Yes.
I think a good starting point for this conversation would be just a brief intro from your perspective.
Okay.
A condensed curriculum vitae, CV, or resume, as Americans say, about you, so that people can get to meet you.
No, thank you very much. And I'm very excited to be here this evening because, what brought me closer to politics was actually business. So there is an interrelation, as you said earlier. Mpho Balopi is my name. Originally, I'm from Tonota. I would say originally because that's where my father comes from. But I hear that my grandfather or my great-grandfather comes from Musojani. And my grandmother has a connection with Serowe from Hotsosa. And my father chose to build his home in Ramotswa. I started my primary school in King George Primary School in Kanye. while we were, my father was working there. So we started off in Lobatse. When I was born in Bamalete Lutheran Hospital in 1969, my parents didn't know at that point that they will have eventually stay in Ramotso. So you can imagine a lot of people are confused. Others argue that I'm from Sorowe. Others argue that I'm from Bukalaka, Musojana. Others from Tonota. Others from Ramotswa, where I grew up actually. Almost 80% of my life I was associated with Ramotswa. And then I got married to a beautiful girl from Butali called Cheza Butali.
Oh.
And we have 2 kids, Atang and Reatile. Actually, their big names is Bosenoso and Kalahadi. Kalahadi is my mother, and Bosenoso is my father. So my firstborn son is named after my father, and my daughter is named after my mother.
Wow.
So I give them a huge respect. You know how it is. Very difficult to grow around your children who at the same time are your parents.
Yes.
So my background in terms of education, actually I was trained as an accountant. I did accounting and business studies. And my highest qualification tertiary is a master's in strategic management.
You're from UB as well?
No. I didn't go to UB myself.
Okay.
I went to other institutions. That's where, I'm not a product of GS26 in the whole list. I've always wanted accounting. I've always loved accounting. At a time when I went to tertiary, UB did not necessarily, they had BCom. So I wanted to do accounting and business studies.
Yes.
And then ultimately I did my master's in strategic management, MSc in strategic management with the University of Derbyshire in the UK. And my major, or maybe my focus was on innovation. Innovation and, performance management systems and obviously management and leadership broadly. Yes. In business leadership and management broadly. Yeah. So other than that, I've actually done a whole lot of other courses because I did work in the hospitality industry at some point. I worked for a bank at some point. But the better part of my life, I was an entrepreneur. Actually, more than half of my life, I was a businessman. I started my entrepreneurial what do you call it?
Efforts or endeavors.
Maybe efforts and endeavors. Not, I didn't want to use that. Maybe hustling. Yeah,
hustling.
My hustle in business.
Yes.
I started it around 2000 and 2001. Yeah, to date. And I must say that it is business that actually brought me closer to politics, because you can imagine that I was from a political environment. My uncle has always been a politician from a very long time.
Would that be Patrick Balopi?
Patrick Balopi, yes.
The former speaker.
Former speaker. He actually was the executive secretary of Botswana Democratic Party, for the longest time, taking after Remorake. And then then he became a member of parliament, a minister, national speaker. And all that, National Assembly Speaker. So I think that back, maybe I might have caught it there. But I used to, you can imagine during those days, during those years, whenever you'll have maybe, whether it's Independence Day at school, whether it's whatever, because my surname was always in the political arena. They'll make me act, these political positions a lot of times. And there was a gentleman called Mr. Motsula. I remember at some point we were having this drama thing at St. Conrad's Mission School, which was a Roman Catholic school, when I was a student there. So I played a role of a minister of Home Affairs, and all that. And there were other ministers, it was Commonwealth, I remember. It was a Commonwealth play. But I eventually became a minister of Home Affairs, literally, in a way. And after that, so I think, in a nutshell, unless I've left something out, this is who I am. But most importantly, I'm a Motswana. Motswana's K.
Yes.
I was brought up like many of us in our traditional families, where there are parents, a mother and a father, with siblings. I had 2 older brothers, 1 older sister, and 1 younger brother. nieces and nephews eventually. But yeah, we are just a Botswana family, very humble, very Christian predominantly. We are taught as we are growing up the respect and the values, the real values of Botswana values. Botu, Neelano, tolerance, being pleasant, always say thank you. Always, be humble. Always appreciate what others do and recognize people around you. And always, very importantly, always ensure that when you are having something to eat and there's somebody next to you, always share. Very, very basic values of Setswana. And we grew up as a broad family because I don't remember at any given time where you did not have either cousins or relatives or people who have my parents have known over the years, not staying with us or staying with us and schooling, where my parents lived and all that.
From what you've said, there are two bugs that have bitten you,
Yeah.
One is a political bug,
Yes.
the other is the entrepreneurial bug. Which one would you say bit you first, or did you not even notice?
You know what? I think I've always been a businessman. I think that one bit me first. I remember, obviously, I grew up also as a naughty boy. A lot of people who grew up with me, they'll know that I was very naughty, very vocal. I would always be talking. I wanted a situation where you're always chatting and laughing. I'll always be surrounded by people. My head teacher then, Mr. Peter Pia, once said to me, you Balopi, he was from Ghana. He was actually our drama coach. The press, we had a press club coach. He was also a very vibrant head teacher. So one day he said to me, you are a politician, you are going to be a politician. And I think I was doing Form 4 and all that. So people have always known that Mpho is very talkative. He likes people. He likes engaging people. And, as a Form 5 student, at some point I had friends from Form 1 all the way up to Form 5. People used to gather around me. Even now, I still see people who said, you don't remember how you made me comfortable at school. So this whole thing of politics was always there, people mentioning it. But I think I've always been a businessman. I've always looked at things differently. I've always thought about how to add value to something that you see. Even at school, I remember when I realized that people will then study until late. There are times when I used to buy bread and canned fish and beef and make sure that I'll do some wages for them at night and sell for them while they do their prep and all those things. So those are little things that ultimately made me want to do accounting and business studies. You see, so I knew that as a business person, you have to be able to count the beans. You cannot just have them and not be able to know how to count them. So yes, the back was the business back first, and politics. I think it was always there. It was unavoidable.
In the background.
It was always there in the background. But what I think cautiously, I used it to improve myself and my life and the livelihoods of others.
Yes,
was mainly business.
Okay. Yeah. All right. You and I were in Maung. I happened to be there to check on my business interests there. We have quite a number of units there. And it coincided with your ascendancy to the presidency of Botswana Democratic Party. And I had the special privilege of being among the first to congratulate you.
Yes.
And it is indeed, it's hardly a week now, is it?
Yes, about 2 weeks now.
About 2 weeks.
Yeah. So by tomorrow or the weekend, it will be 2 weeks.
It will be 2 weeks.
Yes,
so it is new, it is fresh. How does it make you feel, and how, put it in perspective in terms of it's a culmination of what, and how does it feel? Is there a sense of euphoria about it, ascending to this position, especially if you consider you are filling very, very big shoes? Sesra Zakama, Sekwet Masire, Refestus Mahaye, Ski, and then by that I mean Serazakama Yen Kama, and then Mokwetsi Eric Masisi. These are massive shoes by any standard. And as of the past 2 weeks, you are literally filling those shoes.
Yes. You know what? One of the things that I want to say before I actually respond directly to the question that you just asked is to pay tribute and respect and appreciation to my parents, as I said earlier. My father And I think I've honored them enough by naming my children after them, my father and my mother, who are no more alive now. They are not with us anymore. But they've given us so much. And they have always believed in me, in us, as their children. But in particular, I want to single out my mother. At some point, as I said, I was very, and this is what occurred to me the moment I was announced that I'm victorious in Maun. That was the first thing that occurred to my head. You know, there was a time that we went out with friends. Obviously, the era that I grew up in was a very hectic era. You know, you can imagine my so it was all of us, my father, my mother, and all my siblings. And it was Christmas Day in the morning. And obviously I went out at night. I think I came in the wee hours of the morning from, being with friends. So everybody was there. I mean, maybe they might have sat together before they went to bed, and I was not there because I was out. And in the morning I was coming out of the house, Baba last and all that. So they were like, my father and others were like, you don't know what you're going to become. You like going out. You know how it is.
Yeah,
the whole lashing by your elders and your father. And my mother was quiet. And when they finished taking turns on me, telling me how I like drinking, going out there and doing all sorts of stuff. My mother then said, let me tell you something. Among all of you here, there's only one leader. This guy is going to be a leader, a massive leader, because he loves people and he's always with people. That's one. Two, he's going to be a very big businessman. That was, I think I had just finished my Form 5. It was it was a
Just
Christmas.
like a premonition.
So when that hit me, it hit me the same way when my father, one day, I wanted to confront him about something, and he said to me, wait until you get married. Then you can confront me about what you want to confront me about and just have discussion. It was a very cordial discussion.
Yeah.
So my father then passed on in 97, and then I got married in 99.
Oh, 2 years.
So when I got married at Trinity Church here in Gaborone, my wife was looking at me. I was crying. I couldn't stop crying. And she thought it's because of her beauty and everything else. And she said to me, and in the meantime, I was thinking about what my father said to me, and I said, here I am getting married and he's not here. The same applies to Maun. When I just was announced as the president of Botswana Democratic Party, such a huge, one of the biggest African political parties, not just a very big political party in Botswana that has led for 58 years. BDP is a massive movement of the people. The first thing that occurred to me was I was so humbled, and I still am, by how Democrats responded in support of what I proposed to them, to say, you know what, please vote me as a leader. This is my thinking about, this is my vision about the party. These are my pledges. This is what I believe I can do for you as Democrats. Having been Secretary General, my record. Having worked with other leaders, my record. But the response, I must say, I'd never expected.
Because the numbers are massive.
Very massive. I mean, you're talking about 90%, 87.7% of the total vote. It's unheard of. A lot of times people get good numbers, but not almost 90% of the votes. So that gave me a sense of, it sort of reduced me into believing that I'm a real servant of the people. It did not make me feel that I'm more important than those that I contested with. And actually, it never made me feel that now I'm part of that club, that class of the Cesaras, Hamas, and others, because the one thing that I know about leadership that I've always believed in is that when people entrust what they love and what they have actually spent, almost some of them half of their lives, others their whole life, they know nothing but politics, but BDP. When they say we believe, especially that I was the first president of the opposition BDP. Remember, we are used to winning. I'm saying we are used to winning because even at the beginning in 1962, when BDP was established, we are not the first political party to be established in this country. Remember, there was the Botswana Federal Party, which was led by Raditladi. Bechuanaland Federal Party. It was led by Rera Ditladi.
Oh.
Yes. And the second
I
political
thought the
party.
first one was BPP.
No.
Oh.
And then there was Bechuanaland People's Party that was led by Philip Matante. And there was Bechuanaland Independence Party that was led by Mutsama Mpho.
Yes.
So that was the third one. In fact, one can argue and say all the people who had that political back then, who eventually became BDP leaders, might have been part of the guys who were established first, and then they realized something. The one thing that was very clear was that the politics that was brought in by these three parties that I've talked about, because they were, most of them, members of the ANC.
Yes.
In their own right. So as they were working in South Africa, they became members of the ANC. So the politics they brought here was that of liberation. And Botswana were not oppressed by any chance. So as they were doing that, I think Bosa Seratsakama, Borre Masire, Borre Tema, Borre Tswebebe, Borre Dambe, and Borre Morake, first founders of this party, and others. Borre and others who were the first.
Yes, you can't mention all of them.
So I can't mention all of them. So I think they felt that, you know what, this is shifting us from our ways of, interaction, the way we live with each other, the way we are led, the way we believe we are free. So we don't know which kind of freedom we're looking for. Remember, that was a time that we are surrounded by I would say oppressors.
Yes.
Yeah, in the Southwest Africa, Namibia, the South African, Rhodesia, Mozambique, Angola, everywhere. So we are basically a junction for those who are running away from their countries.
Yeah.
That's why ultimately all leaders of the liberated Southern African countries.
That's why they used to say Mahatsa Rametse Molelo.
Yes,
the frontline
states.
Yes, the frontline states.
You remember the frontline states.
Yes.
So I think one thing, as I'm building up to respond directly to what you asked me, that I thought about was that these people formed a political party in 1962, which was the fourth political party to be in Botswana, to be established in Botswana. But 3 years later, in 1965, they won an election.
Overwhelming numbers.
Overwhelming numbers, more than 85% or so popular vote within 3 years. And also I was asking myself, how did Cesar Khama and his cohort negotiate with the chiefs? Because there were 8 countries in Botswana. I'll say 8 countries because the major chiefs, as they were called, they were actually running their own, little chiefdoms within Bechuanaland.
Yes.
You see, so they were taking care of their people. They were doing all sorts of, and they were powerful. So how did they then sell the political idea to the chiefs? And still
surrender their power.
And surrender their power, but at the same time say we'll be working together.
Yeah.
And giving the power to a politician, something that is foreign to them that they have not known about. And having said that, I was not surprised that they did that, because our chiefs in 1912 were part of the people who were sitting in Mangaung to form the African National Congress.
I didn't know that.
Yes, very true. Mokhalagadi and Sekedi were in the first meeting of the formation of the African National Congress in 1912 in Mangaung. It's well documented.
Yes.
And also, Z.K. Matthews.
Yes.
Yeah, who is a Motswana from Shosho, as you know, is the one who was leading the Freedom Charter, which actually then became the blueprint that established quite a number of things, including the ANC and the Constitution and all that. So having democrats, Madame Grahal Hatsela Botswana, then entrusting you to this massive movement that has a huge history, of people who were determined to form this massive movement that liberated not only Botswana, but liberated. Botswana, we are liberated from what? From poverty, from illiteracy, and from many other things. That's
Yes.
where we are where we are, because we didn't inherit much.
No.
So this was the great minds of such kind of men who established this very big movement called Botswana
So
Democratic
all
Party.
this sort of dawned upon you afresh.
Immediately, I was emotional about it, very emotional, and I was so humble, and I am humbled. And I can tell you right now, I feel what a true servant leader is all about.
Yeah.
I feel I'm indebted. Actually, all the Democrats, I'm indebted to them, and Botswana at large. They want better, and they've experienced better, and I think they want better again.
Yes.
So I think I'm part of that transition.
This is really powerful.
Yes.
From your acceptance speech, is there anything that comes to mind that springs out that you want to share?
Yes. You know what? One of the things that I said, actually, I think one of my first things to say was that because I strongly believe that in a democracy, there has to be fairness, there has to be inclusion, there has to be a tolerance more than anything else. So I felt that we have lost power, but one of the things that led to that was most of the Democrats were citing many things that they
So
found
did you
were
do
not.
some kind of post-mortem in your speech?
Not quite.
Okay.
Yeah, but
you touched on some of those.
I touched on a lot of those, at some point. But I thought it's very important for me to re-establish the BDP as an inclusive organization. So if there's anyone who feels they were unduly dismissed from the party without be given fair hearing, or people who believe they were maybe suspended and never to be told why at any given time, or to be given the right to respond. I said all of them are welcome to the BDP. It's just
So that was your
unconditionally.
first official
That was my first official
to reverse all the suspensions and the terminations or whatever
and the terminations.
that come back.
Yeah, come back. So that when you start this journey, remember, as I was going around the country, I was talking about a legacy of service and a vision for reform. A legacy of service. Here, the biggest thing about BDP, people should remember the legacy of the BDP, of our forefathers, of what we've done, the service we've provided, the developments we've provided. Of course, yes, without necessarily making mistakes here and there, and not, affecting one or two things in the process. But there is a huge legacy that we and I don't think there will be any other African party ever to actually lead for 58 years uninterrupted, peacefully, without necessarily a thing. So
it's an unprecedented
very much so,
event.
very much unprecedented, Mogobe. And for me, I thought that was one. The second thing is to actually say we cannot ignore the impact that was made by the previous leaders. And of course, everybody, we have to be able to accept the good, the bad, and the ugly that exists in this country as the BDP. Nobody else is accountable for it. The good that is there, it's ours. The bad, it's ours. And the ugly, in terms of governance
In
and
other
governing,
words, you are taking full responsibility.
full responsibility. And it's very important. That's why I was telling them again in my acceptance speech that we cannot be just another opposition party. We have to be a responsible opposition party because you know how to govern. We have enacted laws which are still, used by
Being
Botswana up
applied.
to now, being applied. Even the people who have now taken up, they have not enacted. I don't know how many laws they've enacted so far. I don't even remember one. Not any, maybe nothing significant. Maybe operational laws, but the fundamentals. We have established the national anthem.
In other
which
words,
is the
the
glue.
infrastructure is solid.
Very solid. Remember, we have the national anthem, we have the flag, the black, blue, and white. We have the pula, the currency, and the tebe. You understand?
Yes.
So all these things, we cannot think what they can be established, and actually a very strong currency for that matter. So the legacy that we have left and that we still exist in this thing as a BDP.
Before you talk about other physical infrastructure, before you talk about healthcare, you're saying just these simple symbols
that unite. I'm not even talking about things people might take for granted. The symbols like your Remember, when South Africa was oppressed, there was the stamp, the national anthem, and the flag. Remember, it was taken down.
That was the first thing that went down.
That was the first thing that went down. And the other thing that was what? The national anthem. They had to bring a concoction of English, Zulu, Xhosa, Setswana, and all that. They had to change their emblem. Their emblem, you know, the coat of arms. But here you haven't touched anything.
They are not going to. Nobody's
going to touch it.
It's not even part of the conversation.
It's not even part of the conversation because it works. I'm just talking about the soft issues.
Yes.
We have established a situation where you talk about Dumelang. You know, Botswana, this Dumelang thing is a big thing. Just to meet somebody and say Dumelang,
Yes.
It's a massive thing. You know, Remo Mogobe, you are well traveled. You are a very educated man. You've been all over the world.
Yes.
You know very well that greeting is not a standard.
No.
And acknowledging the presence of the other person when you see them.
Most societies
they don't do that. But us, Dumela Hela, even if I don't know who you are, where you come from, racial, whatever, we don't even know. I don't look at you and ask you, which part of the country?
No, yes.
You know, there's nothing like that. Tribalism, I always hear people trying to talk about it. I don't know where they've seen it and where it exists. Those are some of the very soft issues that you have to have before you build infrastructure.
Yes.
Before you do the tangibles. Because if you try to build the tangibles without having taken care of the values that can protect that, then you have a problem.
Yes. Let me jump in there to ask you how your competitors or the others that you overcame, how they responded to your victory and how they were in defeat.
You know what, very magnanimously. And I'll tell you one thing. I really want to appreciate, especially the ones who were in leadership, like Ratsohwane. He stayed there. He voted all other positions. He was very responsive to what needs to be done. And even he accepted the results immediately, and even lifted my hand to celebrate, the slogan with me, be there, and others. Mr. Makoba, the young man, Lene, he came. I never really had the chance to interact with Mulife. I never got to see him. But I know he's a great man. Where he is, he would have accepted and stretched his hand also and a smile towards me. But I think
he wasn't physically present.
Yes, I didn't see him after that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll be quite honest with you.
Because it was busy.
Yeah, it was very busy. Yeah. And obviously, we are still in the process of electing, other, positions.
That's what I mean,
So it was very hectic. But I must say that what happened in Maung, especially with the presidency, it was a show of force and a show of coherence. We are projecting ourselves as a party that is responsible. And the chanting of slogans and the singing and the atmosphere.
What struck me, just as a person observing from outside, is the preparedness of people to be up all night. I think 2 or 3 nights in a row.
3 nights.
Yeah. Is that normal?
That shows commitment. Commitment, devotion to a cause. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I really, at any given time, any opportunity that I get, to appreciate the Democrats, their commitment to their movement, to their political party. It was demonstrated more than at any given time. Because, look, how many people love associating themselves with winning teams? A lot. But you have lost an election after a very long time. But the atmosphere there, if you brought anyone from anywhere in the world and say, this is a political party, what can you, just give us a summary of what you see here? They would have said, this is a very big, victorious organization that is empowered and control.
It was packed to the rafters.
Exactly, very, very packed. And the people of Maung also, they were very pleasant. The hosting city or town, it was amazing. Yeah. We haven't heard of any bad incidents, but most importantly, Remo Mogobe, as you have seen, I remember one incident where the hall that we're using is used as a church also.
Yes, it is.
On a Sunday.
The village.
So we are asked to move from the church to a tent. The transition, I've never seen such a smooth transition of many people transitioning from one area to the other without complaining, continue with their voting. After the church, we prepared the hall again. They moved back. And I was like, wow, this is like... it reminded me of the story of ants, how one ant can lead the pack such that all the ends then can follow that. You know, it was just so seamless, and you couldn't even see that this is a party that
I'm going to come back to talk about your political vision, but I want to just digress a bit and talk about your entrepreneurial journey a little bit, in terms of what businesses are in existence, and what is the focal area, and what is the they call it USP, unique selling proposition for your businesses.
You know, look, one thing that I must hasten to say is that I started, a lot of times people start businesses because they've been trained in that area. Sort of it's an extension of their learning, you know, and it's a business. But personally, I departed completely from what I was taught at tertiary school and everything. So I just went straight into something that I was very passionate about. And I feel passion is one thing that should lead. Passion. Now, you should feel it in your belly.
Yes.
There has to be that burning desire that you want to do something. Not because somebody else is doing it.
People call it a fire in the belly.
Yeah, fire in the belly. There has to be that fire in the belly. And you have to say, yes, I can do it. You know, I established Native group of companies through a company called Native Impressions in 2003.
Why the word native?
Yeah, sorry.
Why the word native?
Native. I'll tell you why native. You know, I was looking for an indigenous business that has no influence from elsewhere. Why did I do that? You know, you have the Ogilvies of this world. You have the FCBs. You have the McKenns, Ericssons.
Sachi and Sachi.
You have Sachi and Sachi. Those are global businesses in the marketing space or in the communication space, basically. So they were there. There was not even a single company that was not affiliated to all these renowned world-class brands. Because then what they do, they will then, maybe when you have a bank here or a financial institution here, and they're dealing with that financial institution in the UK, if you affiliate with them here, automatically that's your business. And I did not want to get into that space of communicating using template that doesn't understand the local market. So I felt I want something that is going to be native. There's always been communication. There's always been marketing. There's always been advertising. That's why we have the saying, Yabo mapatsi pokwana utsaman seeds. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's a very strong marketing.
An interesting connotation.
Yes, very much so. Mapatsi pokwana, meaning that for you to be able, for your products to be seen, you have to display them, basically, literally.
Yes.
You have to, so people at the
in other words, value has to be visible.
Value has to be visible. So I strongly believe that Botswana have always had their way of selling themselves, selling their products, or even branding themselves.
So hence the name Native.
Hence the name Native Impressions. Go to the Native Impressions.
No, I'm fully with you.
Yes. So this is what made me establish this. Actually, called this. And actually, I dreamt about it. I was sleepy. And I was always praying, God, give me a name that. One day it was around 3 o'clock. I just got up and went to my study and wrote this word, Native, and went back to work. That's what happened.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And then I established Native Impressions. A few years later, I established Native Outdoor. I was the first, or we were, because I was working with a team, the first establishment as a communication agency, marketing and advertising agency, so to speak, that established an outdoor company. It has always been that you will have your international companies, your prime medias and others coming to Botswana and doing outdoor advertising. But what then you get as an agency, it's 16%. And imagine I come to Lerumo Mogobe and I pitch a communication strategy. And part of the platforms that I have to use is radio, newspapers, billboards. Okay? Traditional medium and all that, you know. And remember that was before the digital migration basically was massive. So it means I'll come and pitch here, you give me a 1 million pula worth of business
Yes.
for billboards. The only benefit from me is 160 pula because I have to get 16%. Then the guy who's not in your bedroom pitching is the one who's going to get the 840,000.
Where's
So I
the
said, okay,
fairness in
fine.
that? Yeah.
We have now to go the value, you have to go through the whole value chain. We established that. Of course, there was a lot of resistance from other advertising agencies, especially those who are owned by Botswanas. This is one thing that I want to talk about, that Botswana should learn to support each other. They were resisting, thinking that I'm going to make more money, not realizing that I'm beginning a culture that they should also follow, of saying we cannot go and pitch
How
for
did they
people to get more.
manifest this resistance?
No, they were giving the foreign companies business
yeah.
more than the local
Oh, I see.
business, But I must say, I eventually got a lot of support from local businesses, and some of the agencies eventually started seeing light at the end of the tunnel.
Because now you had proof of concept.
Yes, there's proof of concept, and also I was giving them a better rate, some of them, to say, look, I don't know what justifies the 16%, which is the global, commission percentage, but I'm willing to give you 20 and all that. So yes, that's what I established, and then later on there was native images to try and focus on specializing in certain areas of business.
Would that be the billboard business?
Yeah. No. Another agency.
Oh.
Which was more on the production and activation side.
Okay.
Yeah. So that, and I wanted to eventually have it as a print house, which I never did. And then I established a company called Regs by Native, which is sort of a clothing range within the groups.
Wow.
Within the clothing range, to say Regs as in Regs.
Yes.
Clothing
Makes
by
sense.
Native. Yeah.
How is that
And I
one
always
doing?
laugh. No, I didn't pursue it that much. I started it when politics, that's another big thing. When politics captured me, you can ask people to drive your concept. When you're not there, they can never drive it the way you want to drive
You
it.
anticipated it.
Yeah, my team always laugh and say, Kanye West with his torn clothing and everything, which are very costly, copied my idea. Because mine came before him, just as a joke. But you see, look, eventually I diversified into property. I love property, just like you. I know you love property. I've been
it's my
following you.
passion, yes.
I know you're very passionate about property.
Yeah.
I love property, and then property also. Partly, I'm in the.
Are you
I
in
got
the
into the
retail space
hospitality.
or
Sorry?
Are you in the retail? Or
No. It's just currently it's been residential
Multi-residential.
and multi-residentials, and now I'm trying to develop, get into the area of hospitality here and there, yes, I have other plans, which maybe as a politician I'll reserve. I won't say because people, once I say, they say, yeah, you see, they want to be this, they want to be that.
Yes,
but
yes.
I'll be partnering and bringing Botswana along
Yes.
into this thing. I strongly believe that it's high
Then
time.
when you are ready, you'll come back and announce
Definitely,
it.
and I'll come back and announce it.
Yeah.
So that's where, and then the biggest business, and then I've gone into logistics. Now I'm into logistics with my son. Here and there, we're doing logistics. We just started it 3 years ago.
Is it distribution?
Yeah, it's more of a distribution, but long range, distribution. You are
DRC,
we're going
Tanzania.
to Namibia right now.
Oh.
Yeah, we are transporting the copper concentrate.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a business that is new and all that. But my biggest passion right now that has just been triggered is agriculture. I'm now into the agri space.
Wow.
Yes, I'm into agri space, beef production, small stock production.
Yeah.
And all that. And I'm very excited. The start production of sheep and goats, and all that. So I love agriculture because that's the mainstay of every Motswana, every homestead, one or the other. They might call yourself as a commercial business.
All BDP leaders really love agriculture. Now,
If you love agriculture, then you love the people of
exception of
Botswana.
one, I won't mention who, but they seem to really love agriculture.
But you have to understand one thing. Agriculture goes hand in hand with the lives and the livelihoods of Botswana. Everyone. And any leader who would not appreciate agriculture and life Botswana, I don't know how he's going to actually communicate and help Botswana understand how we cannot all come to cities and have this professional white collar jobs. But at the same time, you have to eat every day. one of the areas that are my focal areas has to be the development of agriculture and food security more than anything else. Because that's what is easy.
Yeah.
For me, it's easy to do because Botswana, traditionally, that's what they've always been doing. So if you now professionalize it, facilitate and help them to access, roads, to access water, to access telecommunication and all that in their respective thing, then you'll be able to. We used to eat malutu. You know malutu at grade school?
Yes, the
Others
yellow
used to
one.
call matonosa and others. It was because it was coming from America.
Yes.
And I can tell you that maize, maybe America was importing it from Brazil and maybe from many countries.
Yes.
And it was a mixture of eggs, red maize, and soya.
Yellowish in color.
Yes, yellowish in color. I was asking somebody that was massive. People used to grow fast. The nutrition value at that point was so massive. I remember, the guys who used to play soccer, they were massive. And I always say, nowadays people are smaller. Is it not?
What happened?
What happened?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, we have Tabana and others.
Yes.
Why can't we develop Botswana for food security and nutrition value? Because there has to be nutrition economics,
Yes.
much as there has to be the mainstream economics.
Yeah.
Why can't we develop in every district, every area, make sure that somebody plows something that can contribute to the nutrition, to produce for kids at school, to produce for people in villages, so that the economy is not only channeled to your mainstream economies, you see it, there's local economics also, It's like water, for instance. I don't know, people are always saying water will finish at some point. Yes and no. I don't know how long this world existed for. People have been drinking water. Maybe the issue is how do we reticulate it?
Yes.
How do you manage it? Efficiencies, productivity. I talk all the time that the biggest opportunity for Botswana to increase its GDP is efficiencies, how we respond in terms of servicing people quicker and efficiently, including reticulating water to the farms and people connecting it.
Yeah.
Instead of 100 people in a small cluster, everyone opening their well or their borehole. That's not efficient, that's not productive, but it can be productive when it's controlled.
Yeah.
You understand? So that's agriculture is my passion, and currently I'm working on a program and I'm at liberty to pronounce it. There's always this inbreeding. People talk about, I don't know whether you're a farmer or not.
I'm a farmer.
Yes.
It's in the blood. I took over from my dad. I may not have taken it further.
Yeah.
Because I focus
but
on
I wanna focus on
but
you.
It's still there.
You have to take it further.
Yeah.
When you have bulls and you're keeping them for a few years, you have a cluster where people have open grazing land, you have others around the farms and all that. These people don't have enough. It's not everybody who can afford to buy a 6x6, farm land or whatever. So I think these bulls, I'm developing a Mafisa project. I call it a Mafisa project. You know Mafisa?
Yes. Yes.
Meaning what I borrow you to do this a specific task here.
Yeah.
But when I want it, know that I'll take it anytime.
So you're constantly
watching your
the
back and
owner is
making sure
coming.
you utilize it.
Yeah.
But this time the Mafisa project is going to be such that I'm going to be lending people to utilize my bulls once I've produced them, my bucks, my rams, and then for a period when they are breeding, you do the testing of the...
Is it on a rental basis?
Almost. I give it to you. Once we test pregnancy test, once they've conceived, before we take the ram there or the thing, you have to test them. The vet has to come and make sure that they don't have malwezi and other things. And it improves your agricultural quality of your thing as well. And then after 40 days, 65 days, depending on how long you keep the thing we agree, I take them and then we do a pregnancy test. When they give birth, I take 10% of what is produced, mainly the female ones.
Yes.
You don't pay anything.
Wow.
Then I take my bull. Then I take my ram. Then if you want, I bring it back. So I'm improving the quality of the animals in that area, such that even in open grazing land, animals which are there might be of good quality, almost all of them. And if you do that, a lot of us, then we will actually up the game in terms of promoting the quality of our beef and the quality of our small stock beef. So that's my area of focus right now, agriculture, and its value chains. Of course, we never stop thinking of other opportunities in business.
So how would you describe the, I don't know whether to call it your, I think I can call it your conglomerate in terms of the setup or the business model overall?
Look, my son was doing, I wanted him to do business, but he did marketing and finance. My daughter is a lawyer. Like you.
Just like me.
Yeah, just like you. So one of the things that I challenged them was that personally, I've been going with my passion and my heart, following my dreams extremely. But there's a relationship around what I want to do. But I want you to then come in and consolidate this thing and make it a business and ultimately have other people participate in this business and grow it.
Yes.
And I said to them, actually, if you are a palm tree in the middle of shrubs, you become too obvious for people to want to cut you down.
I hear you.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I'm one person who believes that you always have to be at least the longest shrubs among shrubs.
Yeah.
Don't be a long tree.
In other words, ensure that you grow with the surrounding around.
Just grow with the surrounding that you have. Empower people.
Yes.
Ensure that, and then you are sustaining your business. Traditionally you find that people who were very wealthy, once you're growing up, once the parents pass on, everything collapses.
Yeah.
So you should start thinking of corporatizing our businesses, having them as corporates, and ultimately listing them or spreading them, such that people can be able to, generations can be able to want to sustain your thing.
Passing of intergenerational wealth.
My current model is that of a family business that has an intention of growing such that we eventually become a corporate that can be able to bring other people around.
Wow.
And I love this model, not only for myself. Example that I can give you, as a member of parliament for Gaborone North, there's a lot that I've done.
And
that
you were
do.
there for 2 terms?
No, 1 term.
Oh, is it 1 term?
High impact, yeah. I like that it's 2 terms.
It feels
in
like
your mind.
2 terms, yeah. I think I voted for you twice. I don't know. You tried twice?
Yeah, no, I tried once.
Oh, okay.
And I won big time.
Yeah.
Maybe the other time you're voting for somebody else and you thought it's me.
Yeah.
We have, as politicians, and I like the fact that you're talking politics and business.
Yes.
I think it's very important. It's high time that we develop Botswana into becoming real business people. I've been talking a lot, but I'm happy that the immediate past president of the country, in his SONA, the last SONA that he gave, he did talk about the change of the land tenure system, or maybe enhancing the way land is utilized by the authorities.
Yes.
Including maybe relaxing the way they've been viewing at the planning and the what do you call it?
To his credit, he changed quite the zoning around
The
Mama
zoning,
Shia.
yes, quite a lot of things. Around Mama Shia, around the airport,
Yes.
it's such a massive development that we don't talk a lot about.
Yes.
The development of the CESA around the airport there.
No, that
it's
happened
massive.
under
The
him,
zoning.
yes,
Yes, it happened during the between 2019 and before he lost the elections.
Yes.
Yeah. So one of the things that I actually became very interested in, I started talking to the people of Lidumang and other people. You see, we can't have a village in the midst of a city type of thing. The other side is Pakalani, 1.3, 1.5 thousand pula per square meter, and then have a extension 11, 1.5, 1.6, the same. And then it means it's obvious that at Lidumang or in Lidumang is the same amount.
Yes.
The land will cost the same amount.
Yeah.
You don't have to...
Because it's adjacent to...
Yeah, because it's adjacent to both 11 and Pakalani and other areas, which are in Setlua on the other side and all that. So I said, these people have about 450, 500 square meter plots, not developed very well, and people are already staying in Khabane, Ramotsa, Otse, Metsimothabe, all over. They need accommodation. Why can't they group themselves? 20 people come together, look for a development partner who is in business and all that, and build skyscrapers.
Yes.
Yeah, and then
the direction we should be going.
Just to go up, because the land above your property is yours until you reach heaven.
Yes.
So
you have what is known as, what air rights.
Air rights.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Rights going upwards.
Yeah, you call it well as a lawyer.
Yeah.
Air rights. So now, if you go 10 stories or 11 stories up, and your contribution is the land, which by value, if it's about 450 square meters, it's about arguably 650,000 pula. It's your contribution for the townhouse that will be at the ground floor. You become a real estate person, and maybe you get about 2% or 2.5% of the rental above your head.
Wow.
So you can imagine then that converts you immediately into a person who then invests in property development.
Yes.
And you are a real estate. You can actually say, I'm in business of real estate.
Yeah, you are.
So you have a decent accommodation. You can even rent it out.
Yes.
Because the government of the BDP has actually said you have the right to own a property in town and in the village.
Yes.
You can still give you a plot where you come from. Imagine then this will be an investment.
Yes.
And where you come from is where you can then go build, retire.
Yeah.
And for your future, your children, the future generation, they will know that unless the property, appreciates in value.
Yes.
Yeah, you can use that to go get a loan from the bank and build another property.
And then grow
or invest elsewhere as well.
Yeah.
So that's real wealth creation for Botswana that we should not be shy of talking about. Now, I'll be the happiest person if I see that Botswana are very rich. All of them. But let's say
it's like we should change our language.
No, we should change our language. When somebody asks you how are you, you say, I'm fine, thank you, yourself. Don't say, hey, maraponyana but always project confidence and the fact
positivity.
that and positivity.
Yes.
You understand? So those are some of the things as a politician from a business perspective that I believe can be done. Just as an example.
Here's where I want to take you briefly. I'm sure even as we talk about business, it's something that comes up from time to time.
Yes.
No one predicted on the 30th or 31st of October, at least not openly, a BDP loss. So some are saying there's no time for recriminations, there's no time for finger pointing, but nevertheless we should diagnose and do some kind of post-mortem to establish what went wrong, without being crass or pointing any fingers. What went wrong from other people's point of view? What went right? Because to some people, what goes wrong is actually an advantage.
It's an opportunity. One man's
meat is another's poison. Yes.
Look, I strongly believe that it will be amiss of us not to try and find out exactly what went wrong. We have moved on. I don't think we have time. And personally, I don't have appetite to start pointing fingers at anybody and saying, that who was there at the time that we experienced this calamity. What are the things which people are speculating about all over, be it in the media, be it in the streets, be it in corridors, everywhere, corridors of power. What could have gone wrong, And if you remember my first interview before I started the campaign for my presidency, I did talk about 2008 as the beginning of a number of challenges that I saw within the BDP. And 2009 Congress, I talked about the 2010, formation of the BMD, and I further talked about the 2018 or so formation of the BPF along the way. I mean, you cannot be eating yourself up and cutting your fleshes all over and still be the same.
Yes.
You can't.
Yeah.
So we know in a general sense, we know what could have cost us this thing. But as the new leadership, we have to now start engaging democracy and engaging the structures and engaging the processes which were there and engaging what we did vis-a-vis what could have been done and see whether what we are thinking in terms of going forward is something that can aid the party or not. So we are not going to, we have no time to start fighting anybody. Basically, I want all hands on deck as the leader of the BDP.
Yes.
I want everybody to contribute in the manner that they can contribute, and people should know that you can contribute even if you are not in the structures.
Yeah.
As a democrat, in actual fact, the people who support us, the masses, are not in the structures because we need a lot of numbers.
Yeah.
But they support how we do things. They support how we behave. They support, and for them to be attracted into supporting the BDP to bring it back into power,
Yeah.
they have to see that we are doing things right. They have to be able to acknowledge that, yes, you identified the challenges of the past and came up with the
Would it be
the
fair for
future.
someone to say we became a little autocratic? Or somewhat autocratic?
I wouldn't say that. Yes and no. I would say yes, not as a BDP. You understand? I want to say this. I think we're taking people for granted. I mean, it's like you. At times when you know the passages around your homesteads, every time when you wake up, even if it's dark, you don't need a torch. You just want to take
know
a
how
corner
to-
thing.
yeah.
If somebody can put the wire there or something, you're going to trip and fall.
Yes.
Because you take it for granted that I know how this
This landscape is.
I know the landscape. I know my way around here and all that. So I strongly believe that BDP, we started taking Botswana for granted, and we did take Botswana for granted, and even our posture as we are going towards the elections, we are saying, we are going to win. So what? You understand? But Botswana that I know, even if you know you are
going to
winning,
win.
you have
You are
to
humble.
You have to be humble. You understand? And some of the things that maybe people were pointing at to say, here you're not doing right. Maybe it took time or we never responded to doing those things. So now,
Yeah.
I think, yes, and again, there was a lot of bickering and hate and, isolating other people and all that. And I don't believe that's the right way to go. Politics is a game of numbers. Right now, you're going to find people that I don't fundamentally agree with the way they do things as well. I'm going to be working with them, at least to find a common ground.
Yeah.
To make sure that the winner has to be the organization, the BDP has to benefit. It's not about my feelings.
Yeah.
You see, once you assume the leadership position, it's like riding a bus. You don't go to the bus station and say, I want people with tertiary education to get into this bus. I want people who are this size in terms of weight or height. I want
get
people
in this
to get
bus.
into this bus. You can't.
That's a good
You understand?
example, yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a bus that whoever pays a fare to get in there, they go in.
Yes.
Yeah, so you have to understand that as you are driving this bus, you cannot have a conversation that is going to be understood by all these people
Yeah.
at the same time. Others will be very sharp to understand what you're talking about. Others will be lost as you're discussing with them. But if you roll this bus, understand that you are killing the very same people that I'm talking about.
Yes, yes.
It's a mixture of all other people. And those who were watching, they'll be saying, wow. Hey, motho o bolaile batho ka mehutahutele wa gakgamatsa ba bantsintsi ba ba reng ba ba reng. You understand?
Yes.
So I strongly believe that Rona, at some point, we got to a point where we wanted now to be selective in terms of, and again, it's okay for people to be ambitious. In politics, the biggest undoing of a whole lot of leaders and political parties is fighting for positions. Positions are always good, and they are timed, and they are always going to be there, especially in a democratic dispensation.
Setting, yes.
In a democratic setting, understand and appreciate that there has to be succession plan.
Yeah.
There has to be succession. You can never grow younger. You are all going to grow older, and eventually will be out of those positions.
Yeah.
So those are some of the challenges that I strongly believe that cost us this loss, where many people who could have contributed positively felt threatened
Yeah.
by those who were in power, or those who were in power felt threatened by those who people
Yeah.
perceived could be the rightful people to lead. But having said that, the one thing that I've seen also in this country, when I'm in a position of authority, I should not use that position to fight my battles.
Whatever battles.
Whatever battles are there. Some of the institutions that we have were weaponized
Yeah.
against a whole lot of people. You've seen, I've talked about it during my campaigns,
Yeah.
how you've seen people been treated, the arrest of Borra Mateka. Some of us, my staff and many
You also
other people.
stepped out at
I
some
stepped out for many
because it
reasons.
was becoming intolerable.
Yeah, very, very. You see, it was becoming a challenge. And also, you step out, you hear that Balopi is going to be charged. DCEC is investigating him and whoever for money laundering and living beyond your means. You know, I don't know
These
how
were
you can
just
define
scandalous stories.
scandalous
from nowhere.
stories, but there's no smoke without fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you'll find that people can go out. If people don't understand how you do things, Ramogobe, I know a lot of lawyers
Yes.
who started as legal practitioners and retired as legal practitioners,
Yes.
managing their law firms, earning fees
Yes.
from the clients, who never diversified
At
their
all,
thinking
yeah.
at all. So imagine if a lawyer like that retires and then becomes a president, and he realizes that the lawyer Remogobe is into property development, he is into farming, he is into podcast, whatever,
Yes,
he's
it's so
into
many-
this thing. He's got a studio, he's got ABCD.
Yeah.
He said, no, where does he get the money to do that? And then he starts saying, no, it means he's stealing
Yeah.
or he's living beyond his means.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have an entrepreneurial
Mindset.
You understand? So we should always allow Botswana. But if it's another person, I don't want to mention races.
No.
You know many other races here
Yeah. Yeah.
who will thrive and have everything under the sun.
Yes.
And people will always say, hey, these guys are brilliant. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
they know how to do business. But in Botswana, you should be a thief or a whatever.
I hope
for you
that
to-
is
to-
changing now.
I want, you know, my prayer every single day is that can we please stop, you know, thinking that Botswana have a certain level that they should be kept at in
Forever,
terms of
yeah.
forever. Allow them to blossom. Allow them to grow. Don't be jealous
allow
of
them
each
to
other.
flourish.
Allow them to flourish. You see, because once they flourish, the whole nation, Botswana, will change.
Yes.
Because it's a cultural thing. If you see a guy that you grew up with, Oja Matonosa Lene, or Malutu Lene, flourishing,
Yeah.
you start believing also. But if you see it from other races, you think it's something that actually can only be done by those, not me.
Yeah.
So I think all these things, Ramogobe, also people are beginning to say, we are followed by the system. They call it a system. We are followed by a system.
Yeah, but it was true. People
Very true.
felt-
No, a lot of people felt it
yeah.
very well. And right now, let me be honest with you. It's amazing how a lot of people, pledge their support to my leadership. And I pledge support openly, and I still pledge it to the leadership of the country.
Yes.
That's why I was saying Democrats should be responsible opposition. We should advise, we should guide, we should critique where it's important, but
Yeah.
not recklessly. Like people, Baba Ingangela. Can I
Yeah.
have people who are opposing without having been,
Ingangela is like attacking everything.
yeah, attacking everything, you understand?
Yeah.
So that, and there was nothing wrong. If you don't know what is happening on the other side, how can you predict
Yeah.
how things are going to turn out? But as we know,
Yeah.
58 years of leadership.
Yeah.
That's why we should have a think tank, you should have a shadow cabinet, you should have advisors. And when you see that the government, I've supported Duma Boko's led government in many instances myself. For instance,
really?
I support the initiative of the forensic audit
Yes.
initiative. I think it's very important. And this thing should be done from time to time, not
Yes.
necessarily their suspicions, so that we improve our
That's
ratings.
the same way you audit your business.
Just the same way.
Yeah.
You audit your business not because you've stolen from it.
Yeah.
Because you want to see how the improvement, how your assets
Yeah,
are
where the
improving,
blind
how the
spots
money
may
is.
be, yeah.
Yes, where the blind spots may be. So even the country, maybe every 10 years or so, we should do it without it being something. So I support that.
Yeah.
So yes.
So, as an entrepreneur, president, arguably the first one that is openly entrepreneurial,
Yeah.
how do you position yourself for victory 4 or 5 years from now? Is there a blueprint? Is there something you're willing to share? Or you are still crafting a strategy?
You know what? We're still crafting a strategy, but I can share a few pointers. But at the same time, it is very important for you to realize that we are obviously going to face resistance. There's going to be a resistance. But at the same time, within the BDP, we believe that there won't be resistance in terms of accepting what we'll be coming up with. One, there are certain things that you have to do because there's money somewhere. But there are certain business initiatives that you don't have to input a lot of money, but you generate a lot of income.
Sort of low-hanging fruit.
Low-hanging fruits. Right now, when the economy is doing badly, we should be looking at our efficiencies as a country, as a government.
Yes.
Have you exhausted everything else that can trigger, economic performance, positive economic performance?
Yes.
For instance, I talk about the productivity blueprint. It's going to be a core thing, and it's still a very, very important thing from where I'm sitting. I've been looking at productivity from a point of view of workplace productivity. Come to work on time, work hard, but without necessarily broadening it up as a major contributor of GDP. If you look at how our service provision, how long does it take you to get a license, a permit, maybe a permit to operate a restaurant? What's needed for you to be able? They want showers, they want this, they want parking, there's a whole lot of things.
There's a long list.
And then you go to UK. You'll never find any parking space in front of a restaurant, in front of a hotel. People have to find ways. Others now are in the business of doing what? Providing parking.
Yes.
You create an opportunity. You understand? By saying, just build, because land is very expensive. If you look at the amount of land here, that is idle. Because you're building a 3-story or whatever story, then you have to leave a lot of land down there without utilizing it. At night, it's empty. During the day, few cars. So that land is not performing.
Yes.
So there are lots of inefficiencies in the way that land is utilized here.
So you're targeting inefficiencies?
Yes, I'll target inefficiencies. Turnaround time to get your passport, turnaround time to get everything. And you can imagine the inputs in terms of infrastructure and the number of employees and everything. They are there, but they're idling.
Yeah.
Because there are no efficiencies.
Yes.
But we can tell, then the output is less than the input. you understand what I'm saying?
I'm with you.
And obviously, if the output is less than the input, that's a loss.
Yeah.
You'll never expect to make money when it's like that. But how do we make sure that these inputs that we have, you make them so efficient that the outputs are more than the inputs? That's when then you start becoming very efficient. That's why your work improvement teams from your Singapore, your performance management systems, your balance scorecard, which we are always taught and taking people. All those
things are there, but when they applied.
But the countries which brought them there, they were testing. It was testimony to how efficient they are. Your Singapore, your Malaysia, so other countries.
Yes.
But then they exported those efficiencies. But because we are not very serious about that productivity blueprint to enhance efficiencies in the way government is running, it was just like another course, another whatever. So I think it's something that, as a small country of a population of land,
some say
2.5 million.
Some argue that the technocrats were not sufficiently trained, or were they not sufficiently aligned to these things, that there needed to be special training to get them ready.
Definitely. It cannot be a week's thing.
Yeah.
You bring a course and buy a module and you say you are going to... Even at that conference where you are going to be taught about work improvement teams, there's no performance.
Yes.
There's no productivity right there. So it has to be a culture. It's like we're talking about the knowledge-based economy.
Yes.
Knowledge-based economy is all about efficiencies. It's about measurements. It's about measuring and consistency. So it's about franchising. It's about licensing. It's about IP. So all those things, they need a certain level of professions. You need to be very... Right now, you eat Kentucky in Botswana and you eat it in South Africa or Nando's or whatever. The taste is the same.
Yeah.
That's efficiency. That's consistency. And that thing is tested and done such that you don't have to cook many pots and keep on repeating the same thing. You do it once, you get it right, that's it.
Yeah.
So those are some of the biggest revenue earners when you're talking about performance, knowledge-based economy.
Yes.
But are we ready? Even at home, How many people measure? But what about Mokoto
No,
But they are the best. But Omar, give me the ingredients. How much of meat and from which parts of the cow do I get? How much water do I put in? How much fire? For how long is it going to be? How much salt and all that? So they should learn to measure these things, so that eventually
they just know instinctively.
They just know instinctively. When you die with the knowledge.
Yeah.
You understand? So I strongly believe that these are some of the low-hanging fruits that I talked about agriculture earlier, how we step up.
Yeah.
I went to a place in Guangzhou, China at some point. They are producing some oranges. And these are very sweet oranges because the weather there allows the oranges to thrive in that environment. It has always been like that traditionally. It's not like the rest of China in terms of the weather, the climate. So they specialized in that. Eventually, they set up cooperatives. It was just like a rural area, say maybe in some rural area where everybody had its own garden. But they were organized, had a cooperative, and they started exposing as a cooperative. Now the place is a city. Everybody stays in a double story because they are now together. They are manufacturing now. They are given the experts in terms of disease control, in terms of all other things.
Cooperative model works a lot, even in Israel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They thrive.
It works a lot.
A lot. So we are going to, in my view, that's where we should go as a
country.
As a country. And we used to have those cooperatives.
We used to, yeah.
I don't know. It's because people became too individualistic. People started wanting to flourish alone. Even the politicians did not want to disturb the businessmen who are rich in the communities to say, hey, why can't we now have this thing? Bedu, we used to have Bedu.
Yes,
Botswana Entrepreneurial Development Unit. You remember
I
it?
remember, yeah.
So Bedu was the perfect model. Now you hear these chain stores are the ones selling uniform, getting material from all over. Why can't you go back to the Bedu? Where
So
there will be
some
those
things
people?
that worked, which we just sort of neglected.
You have to
want
bring
to
them back.
revive them.
I want to revive them, but most importantly, the youth. The youth, the youth of this country are very smart. Let's take them to the areas where currently they are not encouraged to do. I remember there was this farmers fund. Nowadays, farming is not about going to the farm and just idling there. You can do it in a sophisticated manner, efficiently and all that. We should help them. Others can do this production. Others can do, so many things that can be done within the agri space.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that we still, the other time somebody was shocked, not me, shocked because I've always known this. He was shocked that 85% or so of what we consume is from outside. He said, what? I said, so we just have to turn around and tilt the scale and make sure that a lot is from here. And then we export what is left after you are satisfied
about
that.
the education system, Balopi? Do you believe that things like financial literacy and entrepreneurship should be introduced into the curriculum? Is that even possible?
I've always believed in that. There's a gentleman here, if you had 10 hours of this interview, you'll get to know a lot of things. You have to go. One thing that I can tell you, I used to have at UB, I was called by the business clinic at UB because I went there during a business clinic conference, and I made a presentation in terms of entrepreneurial development and all that.
Yes.
And I was called to say, the students say what you said in terms of encouraging them to do business and all that is massive. Come and we can give you every other week, 2 weeks, a Thursday to come and lecture in the evening on issues of entrepreneurship and all. So we created what you call YIF, Young Entrepreneurial Empowerment Forum. YIF. And I want to take you to task. I want us to do it. YIF, Young Entrepreneurial Empowerment Forum, under the business clinic.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah. So a lot of businesses emerged from there. And I was just talking to them about the low-hanging fruits. Example for the youth. At the University of Botswana, I was saying, at the university.
Some form of incubation hub.
It was an incubation hub of some sort. I said to them, right now you all know that you eat supper around 6 up to 7. Then you study until in the morning. Okay, as an example. So we have your cell phone networks which sell airtime, and you are the biggest consumers of airtime. You are about 17,000, 16,000 in the school. So what you need to do, without spending because you're students. You don't need to spend money to invest into a big business because you're still students.
Yeah.
What you can do, you go to a bakery, a local bakery. You ask them to provide you with bread every day. Okay? And then you go to a cell phone company, be it Mascom or Orange or Be Mobile, whoever. You go to them and say, I want you the packaging of this bread. I want it branded. Okay, use your brand, sell airtime around it and other bundles or whatever that you think is attractive to students.
Yes.
It's an advertising platform within this plastic.
Yes.
And then you take the bread and you put it in the plastic. The guy who sells you bread give you 10% because you are buying in bulk to supply students
Yes.
at UB. The Mascom or the Orange or the B Mobile, they're advertising in the plastic. They pay you a fee because this is an advertising platform that is going to go direct marketing into the hands of a student.
Yes.
So you're getting marketing money from these companies for free because you are using a plastic bag that they shop and the bakery still needs anyway.
Yeah.
The only thing that you do is to brand in their plastic.
Yes, yes.
So that you are paid advertising commission by the mobile players, and they pay you 10%. So if you provide 1,000 or 2,000 breads, loaves of breads every day, and you get 10% of that every single day, and then you go to options, who sell the young people's jeans and whatever. You go to them and say, you spend a lot of money paying for storage in a mall. We're gonna bring you orders. So our orders, you're gonna take sneakers, jeans, t-shirts, orders from school. Then you go to them and you place the orders. And when they arrive, you go and pick and distribute here, and they give you 10% of the value of the pen. They don't pay storage because they are not going to be storing a lot of things.
Yeah, they go straight to the consumer.
They go straight to the consumer. And you get your commission. Real estate, you need accommodation. Do the same with property owners. People, you see, those are some of things that...
And it seems like it doesn't cost a lot.
No, it doesn't cost a lot.
It just requires your belief and your time.
Student cards. The university produces these things anyway. 18,000 of these things. Why can't you partner with the university and have...
this thing has to be resuscitated.
Definitely.
This if we have to resuscitate.
Very much so. No, you're going to do
I'm
it.
sold, whatever it takes.
No, you're going to do it.
All right. Now, we're just about to wrap up. We've had a very long discussion. I want you to grab the crystal ball. When I say the crystal ball, I mean for you to look into the future. I'm going to ask you to actually grab two. The political crystal ball and then the entrepreneurial crystal ball, and map for us a future in terms of the next 5-10 years. What do you see unfolding? I know you're a dreamer. I know you're a visionary.
Yes.
So share that with us.
From a political point of view, what I see unfolding, which actually culminated, is a product of what happened, is a culmination of what happened last year. Botswana now know that you can change political parties which are in government. It's a very important thing for me. It means the future of politics has to be totally different. Nobody should take Botswana for granted. Whatever we promise and do for Botswana has to be something that can change their lives. And this, we have to do it without necessarily being intimidated by the past. We have to do it knowing that we have no any other alternative.
Yes.
We have to make sure that Botswana's lives improve. We have to make sure that jobs are created, and deliberately so, especially for the young ones. The women have to be brought into the mainstream politics and business as well as you go forward. So I see a country going forward that is going to be more focused on the service oriented channels of income, more than the resources. As you know, right now we are suffering because of the diamond thing that we've stayed for a very long time without diversifying it. So we need to now start focusing on things which are needed, intangibles which are there going forward alongside developing our
creating
infrastructure.
A service economy.
A service economy. We need to create a service economy. We need to give a whole lot of infrastructure development to the private sector. And government has to just make sure that they focus on the efficiencies of delivering to the masses, not bogged down into massive developments as we have been doing it. Again, we have to change the development model. We have to have production areas being facilitated to be productive. our infrastructure has to be geared towards getting something out of it.
Yeah.
Not just building a police station in a village because the other village next to you has a police station. Not just building a big hospital because the other one has it. We look at efficiencies, the capacity of the hospital. Is it going to operate beyond 80%? And hence it will be a good development for the citizenry, or just a massive hospital that is going to operate at 20%. But you are going to say
It becomes a white elephant.
it becomes a white elephant. And then when you campaign, you say, look, I've brought you developments, I've brought you hospitals. At what expense? So I think the efficiencies that I'm talking about have to also be channeled to this development agenda on how we build roads and the tolling of our roads, the broadening of our roads.
That's long overdue, isn't it?
Long overdue. And again, we should create Botswana as the biggest hub in as far as logistics are concerned. We are in. Let me give you an example. I think the distance between Kazungula and Cape Town is about arguably close to maybe 2,800.
Yes.
From
Quite a
Kazungula
distance,
to Cape Town.
Yes.
But from Kazungula to Ramotswa, there, you might find that it's about 1,200 plus minus.
Yeah.
You understand? So it's sort of the center. Instead of getting trucks driving from Zambia, DRC, all the way to Cape Town, why can't we have dry ports, inland dry ports, along, big roads, open up? Places like Boate have interchanging of containers, clearing, trucks coming back, others being serviced there, going back, as opposed to putting a lot of mileage.
It doesn't have to be
All
one
the time.
truck all the way from Cape Town
to DRC.
Yeah, it makes
You see, so I strongly believe that the government has to try and improve the logistic and infrastructure that goes hand in hand with it as a future of this country. You see, because we are the junction, we've always been, politically and economically. So those are some of the things that I remember there was a gentleman called Stegles. Steven Stegles. He was the senior economist during Bill Clinton's thing. He came to Botswana and he was one of the speakers officiating at the Business Botswana conference. It was Bokim then in Francistown. And he asked a simple question: where are the hungry ones? When he got into the conference, he said, I don't see the hungry ones. And he was talking about the young, the youthful, the ones who can drive the engine of this growth. I think the hungry ones have to be the engine of our growth. We don't have to focus on the likes of Mpho Balopi.
I like that. Where are the hungry ones?
Where are the hungry ones? The hungry ones are that cohort of between 20-something to about 45. The people who are really the hustlers. We need to allow them to hustle, allow them to make mistakes, which I call indigenous mistakes. If you give him a tender and he fails, don't throw him into whatever. Make sure that you identify where they failed. And if you do that, they will not get mobilization fee and chow it before they do the work. They'll know that there's mentoring and monitoring and appetite to develop them. So for me, I think that's the future in a nutshell. And they will unpack it as you go forward as to how we can deal with the hungry ones. Because SMMEs are the engine of growth everywhere in the world.
So that is both politics and entrepreneurship. It seems the two are interlinked.
No, they are intertwined.
They're intertwined.
So I did talk about business and the politics without having to say, now I'm starting a business. And I want to say this. Botswana is a country that God ordained for greatness.
Wow.
From time immemorial.
I agree with that 100%.
This place was ordained for greatness. You can ask yourself, when there was turmoil around us, how did we become the only country that was safe? And why are we still like that?
We came out almost unscathed.
Just clean. Yes, we are. And I want to tell you this. God is still giving us another chance to say, you've made blunders. We're giving you yet another chance. And politically, we should know that as political leaders, as political parties, you are the main actors in making sure that harmony and that peace and tranquility that has always existed here, we enjoy it. We should have a round table as head of political parties, where people can see that we chat in a civil manner. You don't witch hunt for each other. For each other, we don't do this. And then Botswana will have this hope. And believe you me, we are a great nation, and there's a lot more that we can do from a business perspective and from a political perspective and all that. So I'm very happy that I'm geared up to being part of that transition.
Well, once again, congratulations for your elevation to the highest office in the BDP structure. And we have a lot to look forward to from you, sir. And it's been a privilege to interview you. Here's a chance for you to hit me with a question as we wrap up.
Oh, yes. You know, earlier on in my head, I've been thinking, why did we get to this? I mean, you are doing something that is very unconventional. Yeah, you are a lawyer by training. You have practiced successfully so.
Thank you.
What really pushed you into getting into this mainstream business? I think when I look at you, I see more of your legal practicing maybe not being as good, or maybe you're a corporate lawyer. You are now maybe from dealing with business and other things. That's what created an opportunity for you to say, let me look at life broadly. So what really drives you? What actually got into you to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to get out of my comfort zone and do this thing, and ultimately not only do it for my benefit. What the podcast as well is for the benefit of many other people. So you are even reaching out. What really drives you to do this?
I don't know whether I can put my finger on one thing. I'm a person of faith, and I did have a tremendous amount of challenges around the end of the 90s. Some having to do with the law society, some having to do with the business itself. And those challenges thrust me into personal development, where I became an avid reader, and I became a student of the Collins of this world, Good to Great, the Kiyosakis of this world, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and Cash Flow Quadrant, and then the Jim Rohns and so on and so forth. So this thing of just being thrust into personal development, because you are saying to yourself, how do I handle these challenges? And I began to fall in love with attending seminars, conferences, and I found that I'm very comfortable with the space. So you are constantly being watered, and there's no way you can water a plant and add manure to that plant and it not grow.
Precisely.
Similarly with a human being, there's no way you can continually be feeding yourself and then you not grow. So this is what happened. In the midst of these challenges, I think God was indirectly saying to me that there's more to you. There's more that you can achieve. Here are the grades. And I was lucky enough, and you'll see it in the book once you buy it. I was lucky enough to have clients who are also my mentors.
Oh, wow.
And I talk about Ramachan directly because I worked under him at Minchin and Kelly.
Okay.
I talked about Mr. Jamali of Builders World because he was my main client, and he used to boast that I never lose a case for him. And then, I could see that this man is thriving and I'm helping him thrive, but my circumstances are here. Every time I give him a fee note for 5,000, he wants to knock me down to 3,000 and things like that. So he's entrepreneurial. He is constantly saving money. So I started saying to them, guys, what do you do? What can you share with me? And then, of course, the third one was Mr. Muni of Transafrica. So having these three major mentors, plus the challenges I was encountering, which I discuss in the book, thrust me into personal development. And personal development was the key that then removed the scales from my eyes. It opened up my eyes to opportunities. So without giving away too much from the book, that's it in a nutshell. The faith and a combination of these challenges.
Wow.
And as well having mentorship. That's how it happened.
Wow. Very interesting. You have to be a man of faith for you to achieve. Definitely.
Thank you very much. Now we've covered everything we need to cover. I'm going to need you to come back after some time so that we can catch up, and there's so much to unpack. But I think we've just scratched the surface.
Very much so.
Dear viewer, dear listener, this is just the beginning. I'll invite him back for more. But as we conclude, look at that camera, Mpho Balopi, and leave one final message that you can leave the viewer with as we wrap up.
I think one of the things that I would like to say to you, the viewer, is that, especially Botswana, and those who are looking up to being in Botswana at some point as businesses, you have only one Botswana in this beautiful country, Botswana, to take care of. So let's unite, of course, not looking at our diversity in terms of politics and what we believe in. We only have to believe in one thing, Botswana. And once you believe in it and you have faith and you're a believer, a strong believer, then we can achieve a lot together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Once again, congratulations. Do you mind sharing all the contacts for your businesses?
Oh, yes. Native group of companies can contact them at 3159587. And you can share whatever that you want to share with me at Balopi at nativeimpressions.co.bw or balopim1@gmail.com. I think, we'll be very happy to do that. As we had, we are going to be working on resuscitating those who will remember this YEF, the Young Entrepreneurial Empowerment Forum. There is coming to, maybe we should call it version 2. It will be at our doorstep soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Congratulations and thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you, Ramapho.
Cheers.
Well done. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.